Diapers are the #1 household plastic waste item. Every baby creates like a mountain of diapers, like 6,000 diapers. And every year we create more diapers to circle the earth many hundred times. And what's crazy is every disposable diaper ever created is in a landfill somewhere. And we talked about the frustration of the cloth. There's a lot of greenwashing in diapers. Diapers are this crazy big diaper industry, and it's basically all bullshit. I don't know.
Yeah, you can say, yeah. Especially with the diaper industry.
Yeah, it's nasty. And the more you learn about it, the shadier it is. But basically, even the eco diapers are made with this plastic, SAP, the super absorbent, and they're full of these. And then they put a little bit, 10%, sprinkle on top a little bit of, alternative materials that actually can make more microplastic. But then the plastic end up in landfill and take 300-400 years to break down.
You are listening to Dedicated Joe, the new dad's guide on the upending and transformational experience of becoming a father. Today's guest is my friend and fellow entrepreneur, Tero Isokauppila, father of 3, ages 11 months to 4 years old. He's a mushroom evangelist, total game changer when it comes to all things parenting and sustainability. He's the founder of Psychedelic, the brand that made adaptogenic mushrooms mainstream with tasty drink mixes. And now he's taking on plastic waste with hero technologies, starting with diapers that can biodegrade themselves with plastic-eating fungi. In this episode, we cover the decision to have a home birth, the importance of postpartum recovery, pro tips for simplicity, travel, and more. We really dive into how Tero approaches fatherhood with intention and how mushrooms might just be one of several secret weapons for the modern parent. Let's get into it. Oh, so good to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me on.
You know, we were longtime fans of your work. My wife especially, she's the nutritionist and kind of biohacker, and had heard you on the Skinny Confidential podcast and was really into that. And I think read one of your books, and we were using the Psychedelic products and hunted you down at a food trade show that we were at with our baby food company and met you, I think, at the booth. That you were super down to earth.
I think John Duran introduced us.
Did we get an intro? Okay.
Yeah.
So we met through a paleo investor guy. And then you had kids and ate the products, and we were eating your products. And then I think you eventually begged us to invest in our company. We let you in.
Not at first, though.
Yeah.
I had to fight for that one.
Yeah. We let you in. We found a way, and been friends ever since, and then been following your journey with starting Hero. So really great to have you here.
Yeah. Excited.
You know, so let's start with what made you want to be a dad.
I actually took the other kind of mushrooms, the mind-expanding mushrooms, and that was a big epiphany. I mean, growing up, I always thought I would have kids, and I always wanted to have kids. But when you're a teenager or early adulthood, like, you don't know if your dreams are your dreams or are they someone else's dreams. Like, I went through a big phase in my early 20s of like questioning everything. Like, are these from the society or my parents or my friends? But yeah, always thought I would have kids. And then in my early 30s, having an epiphany that, no, this is really what matters. And that was the big moment.
It's what matters because for your life, or what was the thing?
For the soul.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Not to make this whole thing about psychedelics, but it's like a religious experience of having kids. And it's something that you can't really explain with words to people that don't have kids. It's a very unique experience, but for the soul.
Okay. And I know you sort of met your wife through the Skinny Confidential podcasts.
Yeah.
My wife likes to tell the story that they said you were eligible bachelor out here. And
yeah, I got cornered on the show, and they made it like a dating input. A lot of people reached out, and so did she, but we never connected. It was like funny. And then we met like a year later through mutual friends. But
so
kind of through podcast.
And did you know you wanted kids already when you met her? Like that was part.
Yeah.
And she too.
I was like, I only wanted a serious, committed relationship at that point.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I want to also ask you about mushrooms and fungus. Like, what is the origin of that obsession of yours?
Yeah, I think they chose me more than I chose them. But the backstory is that I grew up in Finland at a family farm that we've had since at least 1619. So me and my brother are 13th generation managing it. And there was a big epiphany or like love for mushrooms. And my mom, who taught kind of physiology and anatomy, would teach us about these culinary mushrooms when we were yay high walking in the woods. And then I got really into sports nutrition and optimal human performance. And that's how I found these functional mushrooms. And I was wondering why more people were not into them, because they were so well researched and so effective. And that was the love. But I wouldn't say that I consciously chose mushrooms. I feel like they chose me and pulled opportunities to me. And this is 20 years later now. So it's pretty much like 20 years ago, I won an innovation award for discovering new mushroom species. And that was the kick. So I don't know, my 20th anniversary now, I guess.
Wow. Awesome. So you discovered mushrooms. They discovered you. You had founded Four Sigmatic.
Yep.
Were running that, and you met Cora and apparently got married at some point, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And so then eventually you get pregnant. So tell me about the first pregnancy. You've had 3.
Yeah, we have
point.
3 kids, 4, 2.5, and just under 1. So they're pretty close, like 3 under 3 type of thing.
That's pretty crazy.
Not quite, but almost. And yeah, we both knew we wanted to have kids, and we started dating like the week before COVID started. And then her roommate was like really strict about COVID, was like worried about it, and said, I was like, okay, I will not see, because they said 2 weeks at first, remember that?
I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe
a
month.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll not see you in 2 weeks, or I can stay at your place. I'm like, yeah, stay at my place. What is 2 weeks? Easy. So she moved in because we thought it was 2 weeks. 2 weeks became a month became 3, and so on and so forth. And that's the COVID baby.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what was that first pregnancy like for you? What did you're obviously very smart. You know a lot about a lot of things. So tell us how you kind of did pregnancy.
It was very exciting. And looking back now, you had a lot more time than on the second, third, obviously. But you also don't know what to expect. But one big thing for us was early in COVID, we decided to go to Hawaii. We were actually thinking of moving to Hawaii, and we were staying with our friends Gareth and Nicole. And you had to quarantine for 2 weeks. We stayed at their compound, and we had our own room, and we were quarantined. And they brought us just like a pile of books. And they were like, I guess you're going to do a home birth, right? I was like, yeah, I'm totally open to it. And Cora never thought about it. And then we just read like all these doula books and home birth books and watch some home birth documentaries, which are fun. And that was the deep dive, not just to the fact of having a home birth, but also like understanding of like, what kind of parent do you want to be instead of just doing what everyone else is doing. And that set us up for a lot of great conversations between each other, is like, how do we think of school? How do we think of, discipline? Or, there's all these parenting philosophies and styles, and we were just able to have some of those conversations on what we thought at that point worked for us.
So a lot of people they call it baby moon, this kind of vacation prior to having a baby. It sounds like you did that, but treated it like a retreat, like where you really...
Yeah, it was not planned like that.
Yeah.
But yes, correct. And we did it kind of early in the pregnancy as well. Later in the pregnancy, it was the same thing. We were kind of like stuck a little bit.
Any books or documentaries you remember that you want to recommend?
Apparently, this is like kind of a legendary book that many even birth experts haven't read, but like The Birthing Partner, and it's, I guess, meant for doulas or something. It's a pretty big book. I read that, super eye-opening. But yeah, that was one that I really liked.
And so then what role did you play in pregnancy? What did you find to do?
Honestly, not that much. I mean, obviously try to educate myself, get up to speed on the terms and stuff, but I mean, my philosophy was that like it's the mother's power and intuition that will guide her to a comfortable place. And I didn't really want to make any birthing plan decisions, just support her in finding her midwife and doula and, whoever she felt comfortable with. But I try to not make any decisions, but instead learn enough that I can support.
Same with the other 2 pregnancies.
Yeah, all our kids were born at home here in Austin, Texas. I was basically the doula in all 3 births. And the first birth, it was not meant to be. It's a funny story. But on the second and third, I was like, it was just one midwife and me.
Yeah, so you had a midwife in the home birth. Why did you end up on home birth?
Yeah, it's a good question. And at the end of the day, it was my wife's decision and I loved it, but it was her decision. Only 1 to 2% in the US of births are at home. And reality is that, and people debate the exact number, but less than 10% of births require a hospital. So there's like a lot of births that don't need to be in a hospital that are in a hospital. I don't know where the real number should be, but I think it's more than 1 to 2%. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in a hospital that can interfere with the natural birthing process, scaring the parent.
Yeah.
We had animals growing up, not to say that, comparing human birth to birth of a cow or a horse, but we are animals, right? If they get scared, the birthing stops. And then they often give birth when nobody's watching, like when they're comfortable, peaceful. And so it's the flight or flight response. And I think in a hospital, many moms, feel like stressed out or worried, and that slows down the natural progression.
Yeah, the hospitals aren't really designed to be safe, comfortable, putting you at ease. So.
Yeah, and there's other reasons too. You get to sleep in your own bed, and there's other things that we liked about the home birth. Also, as like it's cheaper, too.
For sure.
But that was not the reason why we chose it.
Yeah. Okay, mushrooms in pregnancy. What's the
Well,
role?
it's kind of like, is meat good for you in pregnancy, or is plants good for you in pregnancy? Mushrooms or fungi, they're a kingdom. So there's many kinds of mushrooms for many kinds of reasons. So same way as, they say don't eat raw fish during pregnancy, although, maybe you could, but that's what they say. Same with Saturn mushrooms, might be a little stimulative. But there's a lot of these functional mushrooms like Reishi mushrooms. There's a lot of Reishi babies, because Reishi is very calming and grounding mushroom. And a lot of moms feel like it's really nurturing their slowing down period before birth or after giving birth. So a lot of people love Reishi. I brought you this calm cacao that has Reishi mushroom that's like a calming hot chocolate. And a lot of moms love that.
Great to have during pregnancy, during birth,
After
any time. Yeah.
It's like caffeine, for example, which is not anyways bad, but a lot of moms during pregnancy and after pregnancy naturally like don't drink a lot of caffeine or anything stimulative, because they want more like chamomile and calming lavender and things like that.
Yeah. And so the reishi helps with that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you found a midwife, you have this first home birth.
Yeah.
You said you became the doula.
Yeah. I became the doula because the midwife didn't believe my wife was further in the process, long story short. And the other midwife was sleeping, and all the births from like first contraction have been like, 2.5 hours or less. And this one was like 1:30, and the second birth was 1:15, so really fast. So she was on her way.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
So the plan was to have a midwife and a doula or some kind of assistant.
Yeah, there's like an assist. This one had a midwife and assistant midwife. The second and third birth, we just had one midwife.
Okay, yeah.
Either one works. You're pretty safe. And this was in Austin, Texas. If something would have happened, we would have been 5 minutes away from a hospital.
Right. We had planned a home birth as well, and our baby was frank breech. Doula would not turn. We tried everything to get her to turn, and she would not turn. And no midwives would do a vaginal birth for breech. We just couldn't find her.
Yeah, it's a great point, because it's like a lot of these things, people are very extreme either way. And usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. That's why I said I don't know what the right percentage of home birth versus hospital is, but it's not 100% either way.
Probably fall in that 10%. But I think that for her choice was based off where she felt most safe and comfortable.
And that's key. And so a lot of moms apparently are very comfortable in a hospital because they know that something goes wrong.
Yeah, she wanted to be home because it would have been more safe and comfortable there. We had to go to the hospital because there was the only option. But we did have a hospital doula. But I think for our home birth, we had just planned the midwife. So I guess I think I would have ended up being
the doula too.
So you ended up learning that, and then for the following births, played that role. What is that? What does a dad doula do?
Yeah, it's funny because now my wife is an actual certified doula and lactation consultant and something else, perinatal nutrition or something. And it's funny to see her do the thing. The best explanation I've heard, this might not be the most scientific way, is that the doctor or the OB or the midwife is there for the baby, or at least the OB is there for the baby. They get judged on how many babies survive. That's why they're optimizing everything, versus the doula is there for the mother giving birth. It's a little extreme.
So the midwife is there in this case for the baby, and you're there for your wife.
Yeah, like supporting, but also like bring stuff to the midwife too. The midwife is like, oh, hot water, or like, hey, we need that thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so you didn't think you needed a doula in the second, third ones because you...
No, I caught it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You didn't even need the midwife. It just
well,
supervised.
Yeah, supervised catching. Don't fumble.
Okay, so then baby comes, and there's this postpartum period, this kind of immediate time. How was that for you guys?
One of the books we read was the first 40 days, and I took that pretty seriously, and I felt like I feel like this is true for a lot of dads, but you just want to feel like you're helpful as a dad, but also at work and everywhere else. You just want to feel like you're valued and helpful. And I took the cooking as like, I'm going to cook up a storm. So I did all the meals and that was my jam, and getting her like these like different warming and healing foods throughout the day. And yeah, that was pretty beautiful. And we've now done it in each one. And it's one of my favorite periods, actually, the very, very beginning.
What are some of the principles of the first 40 days that you learned?
It's pretty ancient tradition, and it's around the world, and different parts of the world have a different name for it. But it's essentially the fourth trimester. So there's a fourth period. And as a dad, there's all these like more spiritual and things that people mention. But for me as a dad, just practically, I can imagine like all your organs getting pushed up as, you're the belly and the baby push everything, and then they drop. And like the healing that happens, it's almost like you ran 4 marathons and now you're just recovering from that. So in that case, for example, like warming foods are very helpful. So bone broth and soups and, congee and stuff like that, and not cooling foods like cold foods. The other part is just basically like, don't leave the bed, like stay in the bed a lot longer than you think. And I know this from like having an ACL tear or something. Usually people get a second injury on their ACL because they start running too soon. They think it's fine and it's not yet fine. And having that extra week or two longer in bed than you think is very valuable. There is a tendency, especially in the US, to go back to work really fast culturally, and that might not be the best for the mom or the baby.
Yeah. I remember I really liked the spreadsheet of service for mom. I created this spreadsheet. All my friends and family that wanted to visit the baby, they got a job they had to do. So I scheduled, you're bringing groceries and you're doing laundry and you're
a coordinator.
Yeah. And that was 40 days. First 40 days is like, support the mom. You're not here to see the baby. You're here to support mom. And maybe you get to see the baby.
Yeah, totally. And I think every dad just needs to find a way to feel helpful. Because it's new, it's different, it's maybe not I believe it's in our DNA, but some of it doesn't come naturally. And then the baby's so connected to the boob and the mom, and we have 3 boys, and with each boy, I felt love from day one, but it's gotten better as you go, as the kid gets older, because as a dad, the first year, you just don't have the same connection yet, but as they get older, you definitely like start having a deeper bond. And we didn't go through this 9-10 month pregnancy period either to prepare us for it. So just feeling helpful, I think, is important, not to have some dad postpartum.
Yeah. And you were running a business at the same time.
Yes.
As that. So how do you balance that?
Net positive for 2 reasons. One is what is amazing. I mentioned that in the US culture, there's maybe a bad tendency to push the moms back to work really fast. But what is great about American culture, in my experience, is that people really respect and appreciate new parents. And there was a lot of support professionally and personally, like our friends and family would help. But then also professionally, people were like very aware that we had a newborn. And like, if I had to move something around or what, people were ultra flexible to help things happen. And then secondly, it made me a lot more effective and efficient because I had to be. Now, there might have been a few meetings where I was zoned out because I was so tired, but generally, like, it made me a lot better CEO, soften up a little bit, but also be more focused.
Yeah, our products launched the same day our baby was born.
Yeah.
And so I was running the launch at the same time as the baby. And I think, I had to outsource. Like, I couldn't be in the middle. I had to trust the team. I had to let go and let them run. And I think that set a tone of like,
culture.
A culture of like their autonomy, and they don't bother Joe and Serenity because they've got a new baby and we're running the show now. And so that was really helpful to start that way.
I agree. And I actually, before I had kids, I did, not to make this into a business, but I would take summers, I would go to our farm because, me and my brother are now responsible for the family farm. And I would intentionally make myself not available. I would still work towards like customers and partners, but towards the team, I would say I'm not available just to see what breaks. It's also interesting, like if you're always available, then you're a little bit of a crutch. And I think that's probably true with kids too. If you're always doing stuff for the kids, then the kids don't learn to struggle and learn. Like the same way I think of parenting now.
Yeah. Did you decide to have all of them so close together? Was that on purpose or just sort of happened that way?
Both. Like we really wanted them to be close because I think the best part about siblings is their relationship with each other, not so much. But yeah, we're not spring chickens anymore either. So it was like, it's kind of now or...
Yeah. How much harder was the second one?
Everyone has been easier.
Yeah.
So the second, having 2 was easier than 1, and then 3 was easier than 2. Now there was moments of months when like with 2, like they were in complete opposite nap routines. That was pretty hard, but that didn't last more than like a few months.
So easier. I mean, the birth's easier because you've done it before, but even like now the postpartum period, even though you have another essentially baby.
That was our lived experience, is maybe we knew more, but also especially when the kids got a little bit older, now the 2 oldest are playing with each other and entertaining them. You know, it helps them have a friend while we're attaining to the baby.
Yeah. Interesting. Mushrooms for babies and kids.
Our kids have had we have a protein powder with mushrooms and adaptogens. They've had it from day 1, but every parent should make that decision for themselves.
Yeah. Day 1, meaning like when solid foods.
Yeah. Like post somewhere between 6 to 12 months onwards.
You start integrating that into
and probably through the mother also in breast milk somehow. I couldn't tell you how much or not.
Yeah. What do you think the benefit for the kids is at that?
Well, plants and also mushrooms, they have a lot of these like hormetic stressors. They're almost like exercise. So like some people, for example, who are carnivore would argue that you don't want to ever eat any of these things because they have low level inflammation. And my argument would be like, that is exactly the low level inflammation that improves gut biome. So I think spices are maybe the easiest way to look at through it, is like spices are like mini doses of poison. I'm using poison in the wrong context, but the same idea is like you put cayenne or turmeric or black pepper or something. It is in a way like triggering a response in your body, but that will make the body stronger. And I believe that is the case also with mushrooms.
It's kind of like you going to the farm for a while, add some chaos, see what happens.
Totally.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's cool. So mushrooms play that role there, a little bit inflammatory, but also bring healing properties.
Yeah, they're great for gut health and immunity, but there's other benefits too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Who doesn't need a little bit calmer kids?
Yeah. So you have a prolific YouTube channel, a lot of content on there, a bunch of stuff about parenting. I noticed you talk a lot about travel and differences between Europe and the US. You mentioned that it was a little bit different being with babies, the way Americans respond to new parents. It's not like that in Europe?
No, I would say generally not that different, not that similar. There's probably some elements where there's overlap, but I think culturally, especially with kids, it's quite different.
Yeah, what are the differences?
Obviously, disclaimer, not all of US America is the same thing. Like, different states are different, and even different parts of the same state can be different. Same in Europe, like European Union has a lot of subcultures. Even within like where I grew up in Scandinavia, like Norwegians and Finns are not the same. Broadly speaking, life is a lot slower in Europe. I mentioned like maternity leave, but also subsidies from the government towards family leave or paternity leave, maternity leave, healthcare. Daycare is free in a lot of countries, free or very inexpensive, schooling. But it sets a culture of like different family dynamic that in the US. And in the US, things are very expensive. Parents are working. But at the same time, weirdly, Americans like love to pick up their kids from school. And in Europe, the kids are like latchkey kids, or maybe it used to be like that in the US too. But because of safety, a lot of parents are not comfortable with that. So there's a little bit more like helicopter parenting in the US, while at the same time, they're distracted by work.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that people are a lot more supportive of new parents, the sort of reverence, oh, you're a new dad, we want to help you out. Do you think that's because we don't have those social services?
Exactly. I actually think it's kind of counterintuitive at first. Is like, why are Americans, in my lived experience, Americans are a lot more supportive professionally of new parents than Europeans. But the reason is that they have to be, because there is no maternity leave, paternity leave. Versus in Europe, you can get this year off. So when you're back at work, they expect you to be full on back at work. But that might be the reason, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And pregnancy and birth in Europe?
Varies, but yes, for example, home births are more common in Europe, or at least birthing centers or women's centers. And sometimes you actually need to have a specific situation to even give birth in a hospital in some countries. So a little more natural oriented in general.
Okay, cool. And then travel. You have a whole video on how to travel with kids, but give us some of the highlights of how often you travel. You go half the year, like?
Yeah, we've traveled a lot. Again, like our kids are now 4, 2.5, and under a year. And since the first one was born, we've been doing long trips like Mexico, Hawaii, Europe, all over Europe. We spent summers in Europe, and we've had long flights and whatnot, and you start to learn some of the tricks of the trade. They're not that mind-blowing. Like there's some equipment that can really make your life easier. We don't travel except with the newborns. We don't travel with a car seat. We have these vests, Right Safer Vest for like toddlers that you can squeeze into a small space. We have the Doula stroller that's a car seat and a stroller for the baby. But it's all about traveling light and having like ways to entertain the kids when they get tired or you're traveling. So like games and stuff like that.
Okay. Plenty of Serenity Kids baby food pouches, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
And like what are some of the entertaining things, how you keep them occupied?
Depends on the age a lot.
Like toddler was the worst. Like their babies, they sort of just hang out, and their kids.
Yeah, sub 1 year is really easy to travel. The moment when they start walking or close to walking, they're crawling. Like our oldest is now 10 months. It's starting to become, we're about to fly to Lapland to hopefully see the Northern Lights. And I can tell you that will be challenging with the 10, 11-month-old because they just want to crawl everywhere. But the breastfeeding helps with the airplane pressure, and they sleep a lot. The smaller they are, that's easy. And then you can give them any toy. You give them an empty water bottle and they will entertain themselves for like an hour. So when they're sub 1 year is pretty easy. The 1 to 2 is tough because they're always on the go and they don't have the patience to sit. And somewhere between 2 and 3, they learn to draw, or they learn to like, they don't really read, but like look at books or listen to music. An interesting journey with screens. We started first and then we had this one crazy trip to south of France, and our kids started looking at the screen and got addicted to it like very quickly, and his behavior went downhill fast, and then we completely shut it off. Now we're in like, if they're sick or if we're in a long airplane ride, they're allowed to watch very specific things, but now we're in somewhere like a hybrid mode. But we've been extreme on both ways, and I've noticed consistently if they get a lot of screen time, their behavior becomes really bad. Which is funny is that with music, it's the opposite. They're happier, healthier, more enjoyable the more they listen to music or listen to audiobooks. We listen to a lot of audiobooks. We probably listen to like 3 hours a day. But the moment when the screen, particularly the iPad, is like the worst because they somehow, it's just more dopamine hits or whatever.
And you said when you do let them watch, they don't get to pick it?
No.
Yeah, you pick
Or I give them 2 options of things that I've, chosen.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. How's being a dad changed you?
A lot. I mentioned professionally, like soften up, like understand imperfection. I feel like before I had kids, I was like very tight about doing it the right way. And then with kids, you learn about the chaos and ups and downs of life. So I think that's been more focused, just because you don't have the luxury of maybe some of the time before. Maybe a little more hermit. Like we have a lot of activities with kids' birthdays. I feel like we have 9 kids' birthdays in a week and a half that we're attending. But generally like I'm a lot less social, but not in a negative way. But like if I get a moment to myself, I'll go to gym quietly or go to the sauna, and like, cause it is with toddlers a little chaotic. So like quiet is what I crave.
Yeah. You're in a zoo.
Yeah.
Right.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to that retreat, you said you read these books and you sort of kind of thought of the kind of parents you wanted to be, or your approach. What are some of the things that you decided there that have played out now?
Yeah. It's interesting looking back now, like certain things we definitely did and certain things we maybe tried and failed at. One of the things we were going to do is like no screens ever. So that obviously didn't fully pan out, but I'm glad we at least tried. Same with cloth diapers. We tried to go with the cloth diaper route. Didn't really pan out either. But I think it was important to have like not a lot of expectations. The kids play-based. So we're big believers in I hope to like world school the kids at some point when they're a little bit older. But some of these alternative parenting pedagogic ways are really interesting for both me and my wife.
What's world schooling?
It's like homeschooling, but you're traveling. Instead of a classroom, the world that you're experiencing, the new culture is the classroom. And some marry some like reading and math to it. But the point is like you're in Japan, you go to the fish market. That is the lesson. So every day is a field trip, more or less.
What happened with cloth diapers?
I was raised in cloth diapers and my wife was raised in cloth diapers. And we tried the cloth diapers. And I knew it gets messy. I'm not afraid of poop. Like poop doesn't bother me. But
Yeah, you like mushrooms, they grow on poop.
Yeah, 100%. And I grew up with animals and, on a farm. Like that didn't freak me out or blowouts or stuff. It was actually weirdly for me, it was two things: vinegar, and then you're washing those clot diapers, and the vinegar bothered me a lot. It's kind of specific. The other one was I was always washing, and I was like, this cannot be that ecological either. That I'm always in 2.5 hour programs with burning hot water, washing these things. It was just, I could not show up to also the baby as well because I was so stressed out and focused on cloth diapers. So yeah,
I really wanted to do cloth diapers too. I made it, I think we made it 4 or 5 months worth of cloth diapers.
That's more than most. That's more than time. You still used it at daytime once the initial pooping slowed down, but yeah, it was hard.
I had to face the fact that there's just so much to do and there's so much overwhelm and anything that can be simpler.
And we were both building a business.
Wow.
You.
Yeah. You and I, not you and Cora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's it was not a 9-to-5 job either.
Yeah. So I had to face the fact that a lot of cloth diapering was for show. Was look, I do cloth diapers. I'm a crunchy dad, So I was had to be no, like you said, I'd rather be a good dad and be present in my life, and it's okay to throw away some diapers, So I think we had planned to still use them occasionally and switch to disposable, and then I never used them occasionally. It was once we went disposable, oh, it could be this easy.
We also potty trained somewhat early for that reason because we had a little bit of guilt over the diapers.
Yeah. You have boys. Circumcision. Tell us about that choice or science.
This is funny. It's this and vaccination are probably the most triggering stuff for Americans. In Europe, you're used to debating everything pretty openly. You don't get angry or yell at people. You're just talking about the thing as you see it, and people are fairly open to different opinions. And here in America, there's teams and camps, and your team has to win and the other team has to lose. And this is one of the most triggering things. But long story short, our boys are not circumcised. And there is a lot of reasons why not to circumcise. And I think a lot of the reasons why to circumcise are fairly weak arguments, and we can get to them. But the main kind of point is, in my opinion and my wife's opinion, is nature had the foreskin for a reason. If there wouldn't be a reason, it wouldn't be there. Now, that might be a little woo-woo for some people. The more modern way to think about it is, if my sons want to circumcise themselves, when they turn 18, they are free to do it. It's a one-way door. Once you take it off, you can't put it back on. And I don't want to make that choice for them. They can make the choice for themselves when the time is right. And that's the summary. But there's reasons why I think Anglo-Saxon American culture, circumcision has become very popular. And it's not the reason why most people think it is. It is, fairly propaganda, and particularly from certain religious groups of people, including Kellogg, the founder of Kellogg's, and the force to not masturbate because it's harder to masturbate. And, I don't fully align with that worldview.
Yeah.
But the main point is, we wanted the kids to have it because that's how nature intended, and that if they want to do it, they are free to do it when they choose to do it, instead of us forcing it when they're a newborn baby. So, that's the summary. And in the US, there's a lot more circumcision than many places around the world. And when we circumcise women, it's mutilation and human torture. But when we circumcise men, it's okay. Also, kind of doesn't fully.
Yeah. I guess the only argument I've really heard for it is cleanliness, is it gets dirty or it could grow bacteria.
Yeah, and that's now completely debunked.
Yeah.
And even the big authorities have to back their previous statements about STDs and just cleanliness, and that is proven to not be true.
The science is basically proven that it's not necessary, and yet it's still the standard practice in hospitals.
Yeah, and look, if you want for religious or other cultural reasons do it, I have nothing against it. I'm not saying you should never do it. That was just our choice. We preferred the way how nature intended, and we didn't want to make such a dramatic, basically mutilation of body to a baby. Instead, they can choose to do it to themselves later. It's almost like piercings are not allowed,
right?
Or tattoos are not allowed, but circumcision is. It's kind of hard to comprehend.
Yeah. Not only not allowed, but it seems to be encouraged or recommended.
And that's the other thing.
Tell them not to do.
That's the other thing is, a lot of hospitals particularly want to do that, and it's we'll take it away from you and they sell it. So the stem cells and the foreskins are sold for medical companies. So they're making money out of you. You didn't get anything. So, but also think of it, if they're selling it and somebody's willing to pay money for it, there's value. What is the value?
They probably charge you to do this, the
Removal.
procedure as well. Yeah. And then
And the insurance company.
yeah. And then they make money on both ends. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's like minimalism.
Yes.
You have a whole video about this as well, but you were a minimalist previously. What does that mean even? What's a minimalist?
Yeah, I was a nomad before there was things like Nomad for half a decade, traveled around the world with a backpack. My goal was to stay within under 100 items, everything combined, which sometimes I was able to do, sometimes not. Some people even did it with 50, but mine was like 100 or...
You were always counting?
Yeah, you would do on
inventory. If you got a new thing, you had to get rid of something else?
It's like the charging cord is one. Socks I counted as one, even though there's two socks. But like you would count the items, and a third of those were because I was also working as this digital nomad at that point. Again, there was no such term at that point. I would have like 30 of the items were like a hard drive and a phone charger and a laptop charger and a camera and
why 100?
There was a blogger that was famous for minimalism that was advocating for it. I think the point was more just like it was a low number.
You were just part of a club to be part of this.
100%. And you had to really make prioritization and sacrifice to hit that number. You couldn't hit that number willy-nilly.
Yeah.
So I did that for a long time. And then when kids were born, we bought a house and stuff you start accumulating. My joke with my friends is that the utility rate of storage is fixed globally. It is 100%. No matter if you have a little storage or a lot of storage, maybe with a 1-2 month delay, it will be filled up. So if you have a 2,000 square foot house and you move to a 4,000 square foot house and you have all this extra storage, you're like, what am I going to do with this storage? And then like 2 months later, the storage, all the closets are full somehow.
It's like the food supply.
Yeah.
If there's more food, there will be increased population.
100%. You have to curate it. And same with kids. So right now we have this rule is that we have a fixed amount of hangers for the kids. So if we add any piece of clothing, some clothing needs to go away. And the other one rule we have is we're trying to sell one item a week. But we've had these systems where we we have 3-box system that we try to do is like 1 box to throw away that because it's broken or something, 1 to donate, and then 1 to sell if it actually has any value.
And why so much energy on that? Why not just let it accumulate?
I think my wife and I have different reasons. For me, it's very wasteful. You end up wearing the same 5-10 pieces of clothing anyway. They don't need. So it's like, to me, it's consumption. We're in the consumer packaged goods industry. And what's always bothered me about it, even though I'm a huge believer in healing foods, baby foods or mushroom coffees or whatever, it's bothered me the first word, consumer, to consume. Like that just bothers me, and having a lot of stuff. And for my wife, it's just like practically, like for her, it's like Marie Kondo style. Like it doesn't bring her joy. But for me, I feel we're using nature's precious resources in a not good way, and forcing some constraints is not needed. A lot of it's marketing anyway. Like for a long time, people just had one set of clothing. And then, this Edward Bernays, the founder of PR, started promoting to us to have different colors and self-expression with clothing. And now people have like 50, 100 pairs of clothing. But like, what do you need 50, 100 pairs of clothing? Like, wouldn't 3 do it?
And there's studies on the more toys kids have, the less they play, and the simpler, that it's some interesting data on that.
And for an entrepreneur, it is easier if you don't have to think too much. 2 is like, what am I going to wear, this and that. And granted, I have way too much right now, and I'm trying to like cleanse it as well. But like, I end up wearing the same stuff a lot.
But it's more your passion. Your wife goes along with it.
No, she's now more into it than I am.
Okay, she's learned.
I did it for years before, and she didn't. But now that we're together,
that's interesting because she's a model, right? So it's sort of like the opposite of, you would think of models as like very lots of clothes and makeup, and
for sure,
things like that. So she learned that from you,
and it was yes, when we were together, I think she learned it a lot herself, learning from like the Marie Kondo, like I mentioned, but also at the same time, like when we were traveling, I said, no check-in. I was like hardcore. It's like, gets lost and you're waiting. If there's a layover, it's a headache. You have a baby. What are you waiting?
You carry on everything.
Always.
With 3 kids.
Always, yeah.
Wow.
Well, the stroller has to go in. And by the way, thank you, Finnair, for losing our stroller and never got it back and not responding to the customer service either. Yeah, the only thing that we can't take with us is the car seat stroller, and everything else is carry on. So that forced her. We were like, first trip we did was 3 months in Europe. She had to live 3 months of a suitcase. And at the end, she was like, I'm a lot happier that I have a lot less stuff.
Interesting. And so all the kids' stuff and your personal stuff is in the whatever that'll fit in the overhead.
Yeah. Kid stuff doesn't take a lot of space.
Yeah.
It's small little beings. You
right.
know?
You're not bringing a lot of toys or whatever.
Do we bring toys?
Exactly.
What do we need with the toys?
Yeah.
We bring usually one book, and they're usually obsessed with that book, and we read it over and over again. That's probably the heaviest, biggest item we have.
Yeah, that's cool. It's definitely inspiring me to talk to my wife about that. Could it be simpler? Because the toy accumulation is just insane. I just don't know where they all come from.
And like the rare moments when we've run out of something, or you need to buy a new pair of underwear or socks, like you go buy one pair of underwear or socks, you know, so that's
easy.
I mean, in most cases, unless you're in the outback doing some hardcore expedition, like you can get whatever you need if you actually need it. But the better starting place is not even bring it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, let's talk Hero.
Yeah.
Tell me the story of this revolutionary diaper.
Yeah, Hero is a sustainability company launching now its world's first micro-digestible diaper. There was a lot of words there, but the story is me and my co-founder, Mickey Agrawal, have built successful companies. She's built multiple 9-figure businesses. And she had this idea when she had her son, Hero, that, hey, like these diapers are really bad for the world. And I realized the same as our first one was born, is like diapers are the #1 household plastic waste item. Create more, you know, every baby creates like a mountain of diapers, like 6,000 diapers. And every year we create more diapers to circle the earth many hundred times. And what's crazy is every disposable diaper ever created is in a landfill somewhere. And we talked about the frustration of the cloth and that. And once our kid was born, Mickey was like, it was like, we need to do this. We need to do something for the world. And I knew about these plastic eating fungi and how fungi evolved to basically eat trees. There was a moment on Earth long time ago when there was too many trees because they would die and fall, but nothing could break them. There is this compound lignin in the trees. And then essentially the lignin becomes oil, or broken down plants and trees become our oil reserves, again, over a long period of time. And the carbon backbone of the lignin and the plastic is very similar. About 15 years ago, a group of Yale researchers kind of by accident discovered a plastic-eating fungal species in the Amazon. And over the last 5-10 years, a lot of top universities have dedicated teams on researching these plastic-eating fungi. And Hero, for the last 4+ years, has been working on how to create this frontier fungal technology and create it in a commercial way. And we decided to start with diapers because of our personal problem, but also because it's the largest plastic household waste item, and there's no good solution for it. Diapers are the #1 household plastic waste item. Create more, you know, every baby creates like a mountain of diapers, like 6,000 diapers. And every year we create more diapers to circle the earth many hundred times. And what's crazy is every disposable diaper ever created is in a landfill somewhere. And we talked about the frustration of the cloth and that. And once our kid was born, Mickey was like, it was like, we need to do this. We need to do something for the world. And I knew about these plastic eating fungi and how fungi evolved to basically eat trees. There was a moment on Earth long time ago when there was too many trees because they would die and fall, but nothing could break them. There is this compound lignin in the trees. And then essentially the lignin becomes oil, or broken down plants and trees become our oil reserves, again, over a long period of time. And the carbon backbone of the lignin and the plastic is very similar. About 15 years ago, a group of Yale researchers kind of by accident discovered a plastic-eating fungal species in the Amazon. And over the last 5-10 years, a lot of top universities have dedicated teams on researching these plastic-eating fungi. And Hero, for the last 4+ years, has been working on how to create this frontier fungal technology and create it in a commercial way. And we decided to start with diapers because of our personal problem, but also because it's the largest plastic household waste item, and there's no good solution for it. So we created this super high performance, soft, incredible, you know, unbleached cotton backsheet product, and you put mushrooms in it after the baby pee or poops, and the mushrooms start digesting the plastics.
So if I understood the science, trees break down into oil.
Yes, dinosaurs, plants, and trees.
All old stuff breaks down into oil, and then the oil is used to make plastic.
Yes.
Right, and then goes into a landfill. And so these mushrooms could eat the trees, which are essentially now oil, and so they evolved to also eat plastic because it's from oil.
Yeah, or they're very similar. It's like, okay, so you got, similar type of food sources. They're evolutionary, were able to adapt to eating it. They're extremophile, so they can like survive almost anything and eat almost anything. So
Extremophile, what's that mean?
It means they can live and survive in extreme conditions from Antarctica to space.
Wow, that's cool. Extremophile. That's like a new aspiration. I'm going to be an extremophile.
I think you already are.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So the diapers are made from a certain kind of plastic that's extra edible?
Yeah, no. They're made from traditional plastic. It's a great point. There's a lot of greenwashing in diapers. Diapers are this crazy big diaper industry, and it's basically all bullshit. I don't know.
Yeah, you can say, yeah. Especially with the diaper industry.
Yeah, it's nasty. And the more you learn about it, the shadier it is. But basically, even the eco diapers are made with this plastic, SAP, the super absorbent, and they're full of these. And then they put a little bit, 10%, sprinkle on top a little bit of, alternative materials that actually can make more microplastics. It's nasty, but it works. Why the diaper is able to absorb is that these plastics do it. But then the plastic end up in landfill and take 300-400 years to break down.
And so the eco diapers, they're not really eco, is what you're saying.
Not at all.
Mostly just like regular diapers, and maybe a small percentage is biodegradable or something. Right. So that's awesome. So the diapers are made from a certain kind of plastic that's extra edible?
Yeah, no. They're made from traditional plastic. It's a great point. There's a lot of greenwashing in diapers. Diapers are this crazy big diaper industry, and it's basically all bullshit. I don't know.
Yeah, you can say, yeah. Especially with the diaper industry.
Yeah, it's nasty. And the more you learn about it, the shadier it is. But basically, even the eco diapers are made with this plastic, SAP, the super absorbent, and they're full of these. And then they put a little bit, 10%, sprinkle on top a little bit of, alternative materials that actually can make more microplastics. It's nasty, but it works. Why the diaper is able to absorb is that these plastics do it. But then the plastic end up in landfill and take 300-400 years to break down.
And so the eco diapers, they're not really eco, is what you're saying.
Not at all.
Mostly just like regular diapers, and maybe a small percentage is biodegradable or something.
If Hero wouldn't exist, I would recommend you to buy like the Costco diaper, and it's more ecological than the expensive eco diapers that you buy that get marketed to you on TikTok and Instagram. Yeah. Actually, the most famous current eco diaper, I'm not going to name it by name, has the most amount of plastics.
That's crazy that they can get away with that. And so your diaper is just a regular plastic diaper. It's better for it sounds like it's a little bit superior comfort and it's functionality.
The absorbency is amazing, but it's what you think of regular, Pampers Huggies style diaper. So we didn't try to use these eco materials, which means that it's actually high performance. But then we have this very, flour, silk soft, cotton back sheet, and we didn't use any bleach. A lot of these diapers are bleached white with chemicals. There's no wetness indicator. That's another toxic thing that the diaper industry created to sell you more diapers, because the moment the wetness indicator changes color, you're going to change it. So you would have changed 4 or 5 times in a day normally, but now with the wetness indicator, you changed 8. So you as a business person realize consumption just went up and you can make more money. So there are all these things that we took away that are toxic and pointless, but essentially at the core, it's a regular diaper using the same SAP, polyethylene, PT, polypropylene, stuff that is in every diaper. But then we have this patented award-winning fungal technology that can then help digest it and transform it like from a cocoon to a butterfly.
And it's not built into the diaper.
Not initially. That was the original plan, and we plan to do that still next year. But when we did focus groups and asked the moms, they're all worried. It's like, are the mushrooms safe? And they're very safe. But it was just another hurdle. Yeah, it was another hurdle. Like the plastics in the diapers are way worse for you than the mushroom. So we're launching initially so it doesn't touch the baby, where after you pee or poop and you change the diaper, you throw this little pouch into the trash can with your regular trash. It
doesn't even have to go in the diaper. It just is in the trash.
Be go in the diaper ideally because the pee and the poop actually help wake and activate it. It doesn't have to, but it makes it faster. But then next year we hope that this mycophobia fear of mushrooms have gone.
That's what okay, interesting. I thought for some reason you couldn't include it, but that's people were afraid.
Both the diaper industry and moms are afraid of it. So we're starting now this way and then hope to, once the culture changes, we'll put it inside.
Could you put the packets in any diaper?
I mean, in theory, yeah, it's the same. By and large, diapers use the same types of plastics. There's some brand uses a little different than this, but like at the core, again, it's this SAP, polyethylene, polypropylene, PET, Fungal.
And then at the launch event, you talked about these diapers with this fungal, this plastic-eating mushroom go into these landfills that are also full of plastic. And then they eat the diaper and grow stronger, bigger, and then they start eating other plastic.
Yeah, that's our vision. It's like, like we want to go to Mars, but you got to start first by putting Starlink satellites or something. Yeah. So that's our long-term vision, is that we're doing these like compostability stuff, tests and studies to see how we can prove that to happen. But that's obviously a slower process and it will take us a little bit longer.
So you don't know if that'll happen, but hypothetically it could.
There's first principles, there's no reason why it wouldn't happen, but our longest experiments are like 1.5 years. And in the landfill, it's a slow process. They're basically like contained, they're like coffins of stuff we use. Tombs,
right. Yeah, and now the diapers like the Trojan horse with the mushroom eating.
See, you got it.
Yes, that's great. I love it. They're the kids eating the mushrooms to make nutrition mixed with Serenity Kids pouches. Yeah. And then they're pooping into the diaper that has the mushrooms that they take that to the landfill.
Yeah. And fiber right there, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's crazy. That's amazing. Well, awesome. Well, I always love to end with what you wish you would have known before becoming a dad.
I've thought of that a lot. And I don't know if I have the perfect answer, but the thing I get back to is that we're ready to be dads, and that it's somehow within us, even if there's certain tactical things you got to learn. But it is similar to spirituality or psychedelics or things that we talked about, or even entrepreneurship, where it's hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. But I think it's innate with us men to be fathers in all of us, and it will be awakened somehow, evolutionary, when the time is right. You're never not ready, you're never fully ready, and it's just like you got to lean in and take the leap of faith almost.
Yeah, that's great. It's who you're meant to be, so
yeah, I think, again, evolutionary wise, very paleo way to think about it. It's, that's what got us here, and we're designed in our core to be mothers and fathers.
Yeah, totally. We wouldn't be here if we weren't.
So, everybody has a mom.
That's amazing. Well, we'll put links to the show notes. You have a lot of amazing resources for Sigmatic brand. Of course, these drink mixes are incredible. We give them to all the new moms in our lives. It's a great, the Reishi blend, like you said, it's great for that period. And then the Hero diapers, of course, just launched, getting those.
Yeah, check it out, Hero diapers.
Onto your babies. And you've got a great YouTube channel. We'll put a link, a bunch of books. So lots to learn from you, but really appreciate you taking the time coming in today and telling us how to all be better mushroom dads.
Thanks for having me on. And I'm excited for this new show. I feel like it's very you.
Thanks, Tero. Appreciate it. All right, y'all. Stay dedicated.